Welcome, everyone, to this episode of AI Simulated, where we simulate a major sports storyline going on and we debate the AI and see what's going on. Joining us today, former big leaguer, broadcaster, and movie star Steve Lyons. Thanks for joining us today, Steve.
Yeah, it's not really me. This is an AI picture of me, and they could have done a lot better job.
That's the next software update. They'll work on that.
Could have made me look a little bit younger.
so, Steve, we like to do it a little bit differently here at Minus Seven Sports. We like to see what the AI has to say on major sports storylines and topics. And today we'll be going over the MLB playoffs. So, with that being said, let's dive into the AI simulation. And Steve, we'll see if you and the other Minus Seven analysts agree with it or not. Two stats that really stuck out to me. 80% of World Series champions finish top 7 in the run differential category, and 19 of the last 20 have posted a team ERA below league average. With that being said, I was wondering what teams would come out of this simulation. And so the AI had coming out of the National League, the Philadelphia Phillies. And then coming out of the AL, so the AI spit out two teams here coming out of the AL. One team is the Seattle Mariners, and the other team, Steve, your Red Sox. With the Philadelphia Phillies ultimately winning their first World Series championship since 2008. Steve, do you agree with that? What are your thoughts?
It's kind of crazy. I think those are some odd choices, right? I mean, if you go by those numbers, obviously the Red Sox have been a team that have gone through periods where they score a ton of runs. So their run differential is crazy sometimes. And then you turn around one week and they won't score 6 runs in 4 games. And I think that's kind of been a trend for a lot of teams this year. Either they're really hot or really cold. And a buddy of mine likes to bet the over under, and he's wrong like every time. And so I told him he should just quit betting, and I think he's finally going to take that to heart. But yeah, the Seattle Mariners really surprised me. I mean, uh, Cal Raleigh having a ridiculous season, hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I think the thing that, if you go by that metrics, that it doesn't account for is like the Red Sox are horrendous defensively. And I think that can really kill them in the playoffs. I mean, I love the organization. I love the fact that they're kind of a top team this year out of nowhere. Nobody expected them to do any good. The Anthony injury really hurts them. I think if he can't come back, that's going to be a big problem for them. I think AI flipped a coin like the rest of us are, because I don't think any of us have a clear cut winner of who's going to come out of either league.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. It's cool to see how the computer, and obviously the computer's just compiling what a lot of these talking heads say and these articles that they post and kind of just making assumptions from there. But I'm pulling for the Red Sox just to make the playoffs. I know and Mike's a Tigers fan, so he can speak all day on the pressures of getting towards the end of September because the Tigers are like historically bad right now. But personally, I'd be pulling for the Red Sox to make it. I think it'd be great. I know the city of Boston's buzzing it's a great sports town. So that's a good, and I'm a Pittsburgh fan, so I absolutely despise Philadelphia. So
Yeah, I just spent the last 10 days in Boston. It was a lot of fun. Saw the Yankee series. That didn't go all that well. Saw the A's series. That didn't go all that well. So, I mean, it's like I said, everybody talks about the dog days of summer, and I really haven't checked it that much this year, but I always think the dog days of summer are in September, not in August. I think it's like September 10th to about September 26th, right there at the end. I mean, you talked about what Detroit's doing. I mean, teams can fall off the map during that period of time, and all of a sudden, they're a playoff contender until they get to about the mid-September, and then they go away. To me, that's where the pressure of whether or not you're a playoff contending team or not really comes into play.
the I would say so. Kind of breaking news today with what it's kind of a twofold question with the way the era of baseball is changing. They want runs. They want people of, I would say our demographic watching it. The younger people, people who don't really care much about pitchers' duels anymore. ERAs are just every year they're going up on average. But next year they just approved the automatic strike zone for the MLB. Steve, I want to hear your thoughts on that. I mean, I'm an old soul, so I like human error in sports. They do it for tennis majors now, Hawkeye. They don't even have lines judge, and I like the human error aspect that brings in the emotion of these players. So, thoughts on the automatic strike zone?
We only have an hour. Is that the time limit here? I mean, here's what I don't get. I mean, you just said, they're trying to drag the younger generation back into baseball. I mean, we're losing fans. I mean, the generation of fans that watch games are my age or older. I'm 65 now. But here's my question to you, the younger generation. Are you guys all computer geeks? Because I don't think so. Do you sit around, wondering about what the war is on a guy? Are you sitting on your computer? Because that's my feeling, is that the computer geeks are running baseball now, and they're running it straight into the ground. Because I don't think that the younger generation wants to see more stats, more analysis, more analytics, more BS. I was working for Fox when replay came into play, and I said, you're opening up a can of worms that is never going to go away and will never be good for the game. And they said, oh, we're only going to use replay to determine if a home run is fair or foul. And I said, BS. As soon as you open it up, you're going to be using it for everything now. And it's terrible. I hate every new invention in the game of baseball, every one of them except one, and that's the pitch clock. And that's only because it keeps the game moving a little bit. The rest of this stuff, the base is a little bit bigger. Who had that much time on their hands to sit around and worry about the base being 1 inch bigger than it was before? Come on. And you know what? I love what you said about the adversity and about the emotion of the game. Baseball taught me how to live with adversity. Baseball taught me that the umpires aren't always going to help you, but they will never beat you. Baseball taught me that it's not fair. Life isn't fair. Baseball isn't fair. Baseball is a perfectly imperfect game. That's the best way I know how to say it. It's not supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to get everything right. You're supposed to deal with it when you get it shoved up your rear end a little bit, and you got to turn around and see what's going to happen afterwards. See if you can pick yourself back up and play.
Yeah, 100%. The weird side of me likes watching these guys get, and MLB umpires are unbelievable. I know how, I've heard how hard it is to get the low strike right. The rest of the box, I think, is, you can see it, but when it gets, the catchers are so big nowadays too. But first, I think they're doing a great job, but I do like watching guys get rung up on a ball and just seeing how they react, and it's just another element, another variable that makes the game exciting. But like you said, the pitch clock, I am a big fan of that. Baseball is, with so many games, as just a casual viewer, it was very difficult to actually be a good fan. But now going to games, when you can go to a game that's only 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah, you got to get the second beer quick, man. You got to get that second one, man. The game might be over.
I hate that side of things, but when you're watching it on TV, it's beautiful. And obviously this stuff was all for TV. So anyways, yeah, thanks. It's good to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the pitcher knows what he's going to throw. Why does he have to get the ball, walk around the mound, look into the stands, pick his nose? You know you're throwing the slider here. Throw the slider. Let's go.
Hey, Steve. Yeah, so few baseball questions as well. You played in an era that there was a lot of, conversations around, performance enhancing and whatnot, and there were a lot of great players. I make the argument, I'm an old soul. I make the argument that these guys are still great players, even without whatever those enhancements are. Today, are you putting in Barry Bonds, Clemens, Sosa, McGuire, separately, even Pete Rose? We can save that for a separate question. But are you putting in basically the guys who have been accused of this? And kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
I love you guys, but I'm afraid I don't want to agree with everything you say all night. I mean, I always had like a controversial personality and had, different reasons for saying the things that I said, especially back when I said them. But I could always back it up. And so, I like when people want to argue with me about it. What are you going to be able to back your stuff up with? Hey, all of them are in. They're all in. You know why? Because we already have guys in the Hall of Fame that did steroids, and they weren't either pointed out or they didn't get caught. You're right. A guy like Barry Bonds, he was a Hall of Famer before he ever did it. And maybe it was a black eye for the game, but it was also one of the most exciting periods of the game we ever saw. The greatest offensive explosion in the game of baseball was, right after I got done playing for the most part. And then, we had pitchers that were doing it too. So they leveled the playing field. What I always tell people, if you can argue with me the steroid issue, that it was cheating and that it was bad for baseball and that it was a big black eye, then you have to also be a guy that has the moral fortitude to say that you would not have done something similar in your own walk of life. Like if you were a real estate agent and I walked up to you and said, look, I can give you this website that'll make you the greatest real estate agent in your town. You'll sell more homes than anybody else. You'll spread out. You'll be the greatest guy of all time in your area. Do you want to do it? Because we're not sure. Someday it might be illegal, but right now, no big deal. Would you do it? Hell yes, I would do it. And so if you can tell me no, that you wouldn't do it, then you can argue steroids with me all day long until you're blue in the face. But until you can do that, I wasn't around it, but I was the perfect guy to take it. Although I tell everybody if I took steroids, I just would have been a better looking, stronger horseshit hitter. So, I mean, I wasn't going to be any better. I would have just looked better.
Hey, 250, don't discount yourself. 250 career in the bigs is,
Yeah,
I've seen
especially
worse.
when I only played once a week. But yeah, I mean, I was the guy. I was one of those fringe players that would have been the classic guy. Instead of hitting, 3 to 5 to 7 home runs a year and hitting 260, maybe I hit 280 with 15 homers. Now I'm a guy who has a job. Playing the way I played, I had to worry about having a job every year. I didn't. I had to scuffle to get one.
So that's actually the perfect segue into. I want to ask you a little bit more about your career. You've done so much within the sport of baseball.
With so little. I've done so much with so little.
First, Steve, what the hell was going on in your head when you dropped your pants live on national television?
I needed a date. I was looking for a date, man.
That's what we do to scare the girls off, actually.
Oh, hey, check the tape, man. I had a nice ass back then. I was clearly there weren't a whole lot of brain waves going on. I just, I mean, if you really think about it, and you played. If you slide head first when you stand up, there's a bunch of dirt running down the inside of your pants. And take it a step further, if you slide, 50% of the time you're out. So you go back to the dugout, you go down the steps, and you pull your pants down, and you get the dirt out. Well, I kind of forgot I was just still standing out there on first base, and I was. If they had replay, they would have realized that I was out, even though they called me safe. And so Dan Petrie wasn't too happy about it. So they were having a pretty heated conversation, the conversations we all love. And I just kind of forgot I was still standing there listening to him and decided to get the dirt out. But hey, seriously, smartest thing I ever did in my career. If I never did it, no one would know who I am, and I wouldn't have had a career afterwards. I should have been a marketing genius.
You are.
It is crazy how, and now with the internet and stuff taking off, I mean, one thing sends you viral, and then people remember your name and face, and which leads to more opportunities. So kudos to you for that. I know it wasn't on purpose, but all of us, we black out or lose focus at our day jobs anyway. So I completely understand. That's a funny story though.
Yeah, 1990, so way before any of the internet or any of that kind of stuff. Although I did 32 radio shows the next morning, and every one of the Detroit newscasts came to the ballpark the next night for a live shot. And the weird thing was, 5 days earlier, Melito Perez in New York threw a rain-shortened 7-inning no-hitter, and nobody wanted to talk to him. Weird.
So, Steve, in our research, one word came up, and I wanted to ask you about it. Psycho.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Was that a nickname of yours?
Oh yeah. Not too many people call me Steve. It came through the minor leagues. I played with a guy named Mark Sullivan, who at the time his father owned the Red Sox, Haywood Sullivan, and that was a tough legacy to deal with for Mark. He was actually a very good player, very good backup catcher. Had a career in the big leagues as a backup catcher with both Red Sox and Texas Rangers. And he had a temper worse than mine. But I think we were playing in Double A, and I probably struck out for the third time in a game, and I threw my bat down and fired my helmet against the wall and sat down at the end of the bench swearing at myself. And I think Sullivan kind of peeked down and looked at me and said, "Man, that dude's a real psycho." And it just stuck. And I hope, that people realize that it was, I didn't kill the family next door to me when I was a kid or anything like that. It was more that maybe an overly aggressive player. I wanted to get dirty. I dove into first base. I dove for balls. I had to hustle because of lack of ability. I had to do everything I could to stay in the big
Yeah.
leagues. And I hope, it's looked at as a term of endearment rather than, you look cross-eyed at me when you hear it. But you don't get to choose your own nickname. And that was the one that stuck with me.
So you talk about how you were as a player, but how were you as a teammate?
Wow. Good question. In the minor leagues, yeah, never been asked this question, and then I'm coming up with an answer off the cuff. In the minor leagues, I was an impact player, and I felt like I had a leadership role, and I felt like, number one, I think I would have been a great manager, and I feel like I was a good leader, and I felt like I played the game hard and played the game right. When I got to the big leagues, I was never, I won't say allowed, and I won't say I didn't get the opportunity. I didn't get to that point where I could be that guy. I was scuffling to stay in the big leagues. I got tabbed as being a utility player very early in my major league career. And once that happens, you don't really get the opportunity to be an everyday player after that. I got the most at bats of my career in my rookie season. And after that, it was, 200 at bats, 50 at bats, a third of the time. It's really hard to be productive playing that sporadically. And it's also very hard to be a leader when you're not a guy that's an impact player. So I was a funny guy. I felt like I was fun to be around and had a good time. And I certainly enjoyed every aspect of being a major league ball player. And I certainly had friends on the team, but I don't know that I was that guy that you would look to for advice or for inspiration. And I wish I was that guy. It would have been fun to be someone like that.
Um, and this is my last question as far as like your playing career, because we have a ton of stuff to get
Go,
into.
let's go.
Also, thank you so much for being a good sport, man. We're 20 minutes in, and you're already an amazing person to talk to. But my last question about your playing career: you were traded for Tom Seaver. You were sent to many teams all across the country, all across of North America. What was your lowest moment in your professional playing career?
Oh, wow. Um,
I'm talking rock bottom, Steve.
Gosh, you guys are coming up with some good ones that I've never heard of before. I would think that at any time you get released, certainly not a good day. I got released a few times. I got traded a few times. Uh, I would say in Montreal when I wasn't playing at all, and they called me in to tell me that they were going to put me on waivers to release me on a Friday night. And it turned into being a really good story, but that was like one of my worst moments because I sat in Montreal and didn't play for 28 straight days. And I'm a left-handed hitter that can run and play every position on the field in the National League. How do you not get on the field? So that was a pretty low point. But real quickly, that night, um, Phil Plantier and Bob Zupsik ran into each other in the outfield in Boston. And I went back into the office of the manager after our game because I saw the highlights, and they were both. It was oh God, what's his name? Shoot. Well, Felipe Alou was the manager. Who was the GM? He went on to Baltimore. He was the GM in for the Red Sox too. Starts with a D. He was the one that ran Clemens out of town. Gosh dang it. Anyway,
Yeah.
they were sitting in the office, and I walked in there and
Okay.
said, "Look, Duquette." Yes. I said, they had 2 guys get hurt in Boston. Call them. They'll take me back. I swear. Just don't ask for anything. So on Monday, I went from one of my lowest points ever. On Monday, I'm flying to Boston. I literally traded myself back to the Red Sox. And I got there, and I was standing in the outfield for batting practice, and guys were coming up to me going, "Dude, where you been? Were you in Pawtucket or something?" I'm like, "No, I was in Montreal."
Okay. And sorry, I know Mike has some follow up questions for you, but this is my follow up. Why? What made you keep coming back to Boston? Why? What clubhouse of all teams? What clubhouse welcomed you the most?
4 times. Well, it wasn't the Red Sox because every time I came back there, they're like, "You again? Jeez, we can't find anyone better." Um, let's see. Yeah, because I kept going back to the Red Sox, so that was always the clubhouse. Atlanta was very cool. I only lasted a month there, mainly because Bobby Cox fell in love with Mark Lemke, and they signed me to maybe play second base and some center field. And the same season in spring training, Deion Sanders went absolutely crazy. They thought they were going to send him back to AAA. They couldn't send him to AAA. They had to put him in center field. And so I was all of a sudden sitting on the bench, and they didn't need me, and they were going to send me down too. So I took my release, but that was a great clubhouse. And I'll tell you what, the '86 Red Sox clubhouse was amazing. We were the best team in baseball in 1986, regardless of the fact that the Mets won the World Series. That was a team where we knew we were going to win every night. And if we didn't, we figured it was our fault and someone was going to have to pay the next night. That's a great feeling to play on a team like that, where you just like, let's go. Can't wait to get to the ballpark the next day so we can beat up on someone else.
One of the things you kind of alluded to it already, Steve, but I find the position of the utility player, like 20 years ago, even to today, it's a very I really can't think of anything of the comp in professional sports. Like an NBA 6th or 7th man, like they're getting in 15, 20 minutes a night, A utility guy, as you said, like you may not play for 3 or 4 days, and then they're going to send you in the 7th to potentially, face a guy that, maybe it's not your best matchup. What does it kind of take just to be a really great utility player? Because there is a ton of value there. Even from then till now, just in general, in your mindset kind of in that position.
Yeah, another great question. I love you guys. I'm coming on next week too. Um, uh, a few things that came to my mind. Being the utility player now versus like back when I played, especially when I was in the American League. Yeah, you don't play. American League, they wrote the same 9 names in every night. And then it's the weirdest concept. Like you said, you pinch hit in the 8th or 9th against the other team's closer. Really, I didn't get to play for 8 innings, but now I'm supposed to hit the best pitcher they've got. Are you kidding me? Why now? And then when I did play, who I played against? Dave Stieb, Dave Stewart, Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson. That's my start because, Marty Barrett would walk by me and say, "Oh, I got a little bit of a hammy today, but I'll be fine tomorrow. Why don't you go get this guy? Because I can't hit him." So you send your utility player up there to go 0 for 4. You damn sure better catch the ball. Because if you're going to go 0 for 4, you can't make an error too. You might never play again for the rest of your life. And it's, it's the most thankless job in the game, but it's still a job in the big leagues, man. And I would take it over anything else. And I prided myself. I mean, I played all 9 positions in one game. Very few people ever did that. I could play all 9 positions. I really felt that there was a good portion of my career where wherever you put me defensively, I was better than the guy who played there, except for he hit better than me, so he plays. We know how the game works. And I was only in one position ever where I felt like I should have been playing more than I was, and that was in Montreal. I was realistic about who I was. I knew I had downfalls. I knew I had deficiencies in my game, mostly at the plate. But as I said before, you never get a chance to go up there consistently enough to know if you can hack it at that level. And you can go 3 for 4, and tomorrow still you're not going to play because the other guy's going back in. You were giving him a day off, so it's a thankless job. But there should be a spot on the All-Star team for a utility player in Major League Baseball, because you're right, there is no other position in any other sport like it. And if you have a good one, if you're a good utility player, you're never going to play for a really crappy team, because good teams need good utility players, bad teams don't.
I'll jump in. All right, I know you said you rattled off some names that you had to face that were pitching against you. If you had, what's your
John Candelaria.
hardest matchup?
John Candelaria. I had 8 at-bats against him. I had 1 hit. It was a home run. What?
That's all that people remember, though. Nobody cares about 7 strikeouts.
I couldn't see the ball. I didn't know where the ball was coming from, so I was afraid. I've never in my life gone to the plate where I was afraid, and I was afraid of Candelaria because I couldn't see his release point. I hit left-handed. He's 6'7". He would step into the other team's dugout and throw the ball from first base somewhere. But believe me, my numbers are really crappy against a bunch of other pitchers. Steve, I was 1 for 21 against. Dave Stewart, I was 1 for 22 against. Roger Clemens, I think I was like 2 or 3 for 20. People say, who's the toughest pitcher you ever faced? All of them. All of them are the toughest one I ever faced.
So minor leagues, like playing college baseball, we ran into minor leaguers, major leaguers coming back, talking to us, whatever. Your opinion, in the minor leagues versus the major leagues, is it harder to hit the pitching in the minors because the control isn't there? I've heard maybe this myth, and especially now in like AA, AAA, you got guys throwing 100 who otherwise would be in the bigs, but their control is just not there yet. I feel like I was a pitcher, so I can't relate, but that might be harder to hit than these major league guys who know where the ball is going, correct?
Yeah, there are a ton of examples of guys that get to the big leagues and actually play better, hit better, because pitchers are around the plate more often, and it should be easier to hit. But I think the difference is that, in the minor leagues, 3-1, you're seeing a fastball. 2-0, you're seeing a fastball. Whether they know where it's going or not, at least you can sit on a pitch, and if you get it, you can hit it. Whereas the major leagues, especially if you've already established yourself as a good hitter, you're not seeing any 2-0 fastballs. You're seeing a changeup or a slider or something else that they might get you to try to chase. But yes, pitchers are around the plate a little bit more often because their skills are a little more honed in. So there's, advantages to one or the other. I just soon see that 2-0 fastball, so I got to let it rip.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I know a lot of these big, obviously major leaguers, they can throw 4 pitches for strikes, so that's they're not just throwers at that point. Throwing gets you into like the minors, but you got to obviously be very accurate to the majors. But okay, yeah, that's great.
The emphasis on velocity now too, stems down to middle school. Everyone's wondering, how hard are you throwing? How hard are you throwing? No one's asking if you're getting anybody out. Greg Maddux wouldn't get drafted for that.
Nope. I mean, going even in Division II baseball, our coach, who's now the pitching coach for the Cardinals, actually, Dusty Blake, he long toss, long toss, long toss, long toss. I'm 5'10". I only threw like 88. So I was going nowhere as a righty. But we had that regimen, and they just, air it out.
Craig, are you a shitty player too? Because we got 3 of us sitting here.
Hey, look,
3 other really crappy players here.
I was good in high school. I was a little bit worse in college, but my senior year, I was a relief pitcher at D2. I only had like 35 innings. So yes, to answer your question.
Hey, Psycho, as Craig, who took him deep during practice.
What?
You talk about a rock bottom moment. My boy Brando's 5'5". I'm like, all right, this ain't going to happen. He took me dead center in practice. I was like,
oh man, that's ugly.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, Steve.
You guys don't. You're not a lefty, so you're only limit. You have more than 2 positions you can play. So
yeah.
All right, Steve. We want to dive into some of the stuff that you had going on post career. Your filming experience. Yeah, For the Love of the Game. How did that all just come along?
Well, I kind of had started establishing myself as a broadcaster with Fox, and the movie came about, and they were looking for somebody, and my agent got me an audition that was supposed to be in New York, and then the guy who was going to do the audition had to cancel. So basically, my agent called him back and said, "Well, you got to give him the gig then." He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're the one that canceled the audition. He's going to be good anyway, so give him the gig." And he's like, "All right." So the cool thing about that is, like, a lot of people like the movie. I went to the premiere and all that stuff, and it was one of those movies. If you thought it was going to be really good, you'd be disappointed. But if you saw it later, like if you didn't go to the movie theater and you saw it came on Netflix or whatever, you're like, "Oh, it wasn't bad." People say, "Oh, I like the movie," and I'm fine with that. I got to do some work with Costner. I got to do a looping session with him. Spent some time with him at the '99 All-Star game in Boston. It was a great experience, and I also got paid pretty good money because Vin Scully was the announcer, and I'm sure they were paying him a ton. And so I think they must have looked at whatever they were paying him and then said, "Well, let's just pay Lyons half." And I was happy with that because, we had a day and a half of work, and I got paid 25 grand, and which now makes my day rate $17,000 if I make another movie. But the greatest thing that came out of that really is that I tell everybody that I was the last person to work with Vin Scully. And even though I worked for the Dodgers for 10 years as a broadcaster, I broadcasted the 50 games that Vin didn't do. And I did 100 pre and post game shows every night. So I saw Vin every night for 10 years, just never worked with him. I worked around him. And in that movie, I worked with him. And of course, he worked by himself for 30 years. So I'm literally the last person to ever work a game with Vin Scully.
Yeah, that's
Curious, Steve, whose career were you more surprised took off from that movie? John C. Riley or J.K. Simmons?
J.K. Simmons he did the drumming movie, right? Did he win an Oscar for that? I don't know. John C. Riley was, it's so funny because he was like a serious actor, really, and then he got hooked up with, um, Ricky Bobby and started doing all that stuff. He ended up being like a crazy comedian. Why can't I think of Ricky Bobby's name?
Will Ferrell. Yeah.
Will Ferrell. He hooked up with Will Ferrell and started doing all those crazy comedies, but he was more of a serious actor before then, and couldn't play baseball. But that was one of the things. Obviously, he was one of the main actors, but Costner was very adamant about having baseball players play the baseball scenes because of Bull Durham. He had done Bull Durham, and it was a great success. But he said, and we all know, that the baseball sucked. No one could do anything, so they had to cut around stuff and do things differently. But in that movie, he got a lot of minor league players and a lot of ex big league players. A lot of guys that were doing the baseball stuff actually played baseball.
yeah.
And he threw the ball pretty well. Him and Vaughn, they could both throw the ball a little bit.
Yeah, it's good. Baseball, it's hard to fake it. Mike and I, we live in Raleigh. So we're close to, like, we go to the Durham Bulls games a few times a year. They're in a newer stadium now, but that's a cool little full circle moment there.
Well, I got to play against the Durham Bulls because 81, I was in the Carolina League, and we played against the Durham Bulls. And the cool thing about that stadium is they had the bowl out there. But behind the right field wall, there was these warehouse buildings, but they weren't very tall. They were only as tall as the right field wall. So they were like one story, but they went way down. And so if you hit a ball over the right field wall, it would bounce on those buildings for like a mile. You felt like you hit it at 900 feet as you watched the ball bounce on these buildings as you're going around first base. So that was kind of a cool place to play.
They still have the Bull in Durham, but it's in left field, and it's on the wall beside a restaurant, Tobacco Road, so you can go watch the game from there. It's a cool viewing park now.
So speaking of Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, very famous movie character in the sports spectrum, who would you compare either to someone you played with or even today would be a comp to Wild Thing?
Mitch Williams. Mitch Williams back then, he was nicknamed Wild Thing too, right? I mean, I saw him last summer at a charity softball game. And I swear to God, when I walked in the room, I thought he was my neighbor from down the road. I wouldn't have recognized him in 100 years. He had a big beard, and and finally, I had to someone had to tell me. I'm like, who is that? I'm like, that's Mitch Williams. And we had a great time. Once I figured out who he was, we had a great time together. We had a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, he was kind of a modern day. I mean, he came in throwing gas and hiding the ball and turning sideways. Um, you know, I liked guys like that. I liked characters that came in and played. But you got to be able to back it up. It's hard to be a character in the game if you can't play.
Yeah, you look kind of stupid acting up and then just with bad stats. So,
So you talk about you liked characters. What were some of the weirdest things that you saw like teammates do, like superstitious? We all know baseball guys are superstitious. So, what are some of the weirdest things you saw some of your teammates doing?
Well, I just spent last weekend with Wade Boggs up in Boston, and we all know Boggs had a ton of things with the chicken and stuff. But a great story I have about Boggs, we were in Toronto, and he used to like to run his sprints before the game at 7:17. Back then, the games were like 7:35 starts. And at 7:17, he'd run. Well, we're in Toronto, and I talked to the stadium ops dude, and they had a digital clock up there. And I said, can you make that clock say anything you want? He goes, yeah, I suppose. So we're all out on the bench, and Boggs would come out, and he'd sit on the bench, and he'd just watch the clock. And it's 7:15, and then it's 7:16, and he's getting ready, and we're looking around, and I'm down at the end of the bench snickering. I'm like, watch this. And then he looks up, and it says 7:18. And he's like, oh, no. And he takes off running. He goes down. He takes off running his sprints, and he's kind of pissed off, right? And I'm like, so I'm laughing because, I told the guy to make sure it skipped it. He got 3 hits anyway. It doesn't matter. The guy's amazing. It didn't matter what you did. So, all the strange superstitions that guys had, you still got to go out and play. And that guy was amazing.
I have a couple other baseball stuff. Just you kind of talked about, obviously, just back to your career for a second. Obviously being a utility player, the trades, the transactions, unfortunate part of the game, being a professional athlete. I always love to ask this question anytime I get to talk professional athlete. When we go back to the Moneyball movie, I don't know if you remember the scene where Brad Pitt is talking to Jonah Hill, and he's basically teaching him how to cut players. And it's the line of like, do you want a knife to the throat or a bullet to the head, basically? And he's like, I don't want either. So I'm kind of curious, is it like that cutthroat?
Well, yeah, there's nothing fun about either of those. Getting traded is really scary, but at least you're still in the game. Getting released, you're worried that you might not ever play again. When I got traded from the Red Sox, I won't bring up any names, but certainly you can figure out who it is at the end of the day. When I got traded from the Red Sox to the White Sox, that was in the middle of 1986. I got a call at 1 a.m. My manager was drunk, and he said, "You just got traded to the White Sox." And I'm like, "What? Excuse me?" I said, "Can we talk about this?" And he's like, "Oh, we'll talk in the morning." He goes, "Call the traveling secretary." I called the traveling secretary. I never talked to my manager in the morning. We were in Baltimore. I was traded to the White Sox, who were in Anaheim at the time. I flew from Baltimore to Boston to get a bigger suitcase because I needed more stuff, and flew later that afternoon to Anaheim and was in uniform that day. Played third base the next night. It is cutthroat. It's you're playing the same game. You got a different shirt on. You got to deal with your family. My family was living in Boston. Now I'm living in Chicago. They give you 7 days to find a place, and that's it. And then you move on. So it's cutthroat that way. It's no fun. Getting released worse. You get released. You're told they don't want you anymore. That's way harder.
Fair enough. Yeah. Love to kind of get in, kind of go back to like, the 80s, 90s versus today. I would say the bench clearing brawls are something of, you don't really get the intensity of like, the last 20 to 30 years, I would say. And it happens every once in a while. like you got the Blue Jays. I forgot who that fight was between the shortstop and the second baseman.
Batista.
Yeah.
What was that, like 17 or 18, I think, or might have been more recent, but that happens every blue moon now. Basically, like, generally, we're dying to know, like, we assume you've been in a bench clearing brawl, if not more than once. What is your general thoughts, whether you're coming from a position or you're coming from the bench? Is it like, I hope I don't get hit? Or, just generally, what are your thoughts in that situation?
Yeah, you try not to get sucker punched by somebody, I'm a lover, not a fighter, but so I go try to grab someone to dance with and basically hang on to them and say, "You're not going anywhere, I'm not going anywhere. We're staying right here." I think the stupidest things in a baseball fight is when your teammate grabs you so that you can get punched by someone else. Don't grab me, grab one of them. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't have a good fight, but I had a chance to have a good fight when I was playing in winter ball down in Colombia, South America. A guy hit me twice. My first game down there, I hit 2 home runs, and then through the grapevine, I heard he was going to hit me because he didn't like the way I ran around the bases. I was like, I just run around the bases, not a big deal. So he hit me my first up bat. I'm like, okay, I guess we're done with that. My second at bat, he hit me again. I said, that's enough. So I charged the mound and I threw my biggest punch that I could throw at him, and he sidestepped it. So I went flying by him. Then their catcher smoked me and I'm on the ground. But that was kind of it. And then, this guy was crazy. So he was running all over the place. Our shortstop body slammed him. But yeah, it's chaos then. And then he kind of snuck around the crowd and tried to come around again. And geez, we were just like, all right, this is kind of over with now. Most baseball fights are a bunch of dancing. Nobody really throws too many punches, but they're way better in the past than they are now. Everybody knows each other now. They don't. Yeah. They're all friends.
Yeah, I'm a Pirates fan, unfortunately at my age, but they the one that sticks out to me is Amir Garrett, who's a Cincinnati Reds pitcher. I don't know if you remember that. A big dude.
He went right into the dugout.
I love that because he was like, I don't care what happens, I'm about to just go send it. And he took on like the entire Pirates team. That was beautiful. I love it. I mean, he was just like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's not supposed to happen in the game, but when it happens, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore because, some robot umpire will stop you.
Hey, chill with the talk on the robots. I'm a tech guy. But
so Steve, one last question, Brandon, I'll throw it over to you. Just curious, more to today baseball MVP race, really in the AL is the hot topic this week as we kind of finish the last week of the regular season. You got Judge, you have Cal Raleigh. As someone, you have played catcher at some point in your career, as you said. There's arguments on both sides of it. You look at Judge, he's batting .326. Then you have Raleigh, who's broken the catching home run record, has 120 RBIs, 247, average. So there are a lot of people saying this is like a no-brainer. It's ridiculous that a catcher is doing this at this level. But then it's like, well, you got to look at the overall picture. So in general, like, who would you choose for the AL MVP and basically why?
Being that he's a catcher, plus he's got the all-time record now for switch hitters and home runs, I thought Cal Raleigh. Well, number two, there's another reason I didn't want Cal Raleigh to keep playing because my sister-in-law lives up in Seattle, and I bet her that I bet her $50 that Ohtani would hit more home runs than Cal Raleigh. So I'm not going to make it on that. I'm losing the money. But I thought, especially after the home run hitting contest at the All-Star break and the fact that he's catching, that he would slow down big time in the second half. And it didn't happen. So what he's done is amazing. Judge is Judge. I mean, the guy should be in the MVP conversation every time. But when someone else jumps up and does what he's doing against a guy like Judge, because he does it all the time, it's something special, and I think it should be recognized. Catching, you just get, people don't take into consideration that you just took a foul tip off your middle finger, or you took another foul tip right off your collarbone. And guess who's the first hitter of the next inning? No one cares about that. Guess what? I've been squatting for 8 innings. And on top of which, I've been squatting for 137 games this year, and we're still not done. That's tough. And people should put more weight on that position that doesn't get put. I never really answered the question.
Cal Raleigh.
That's all right. Yeah, we'll get the robots to answer it for you. Nah, I'm messing with you. So the landscape of media, especially sports media, has changed. Draymond Green ushered in this new term called new media, where the athletes are now the media talking heads and voices. How did you go from a player to broadcasting for any players that want to follow your footsteps? And then what was something that was very difficult for you to pick up in the very beginning?
Well, if you follow my footsteps, you're going to get fired everywhere you go. So probably that's not. Um, I I always felt like I had something to say. I felt like I had an opinion that wasn't necessarily mainstream, but I could back it up. I talk about the game way better than I played it. So I had a lot of things headed in my direction, but I figured I would never get a broadcasting job because I wasn't a good player. I wasn't a household name. And I fought through that. I got the auditions. I did what I do. And all due respect, like I don't, we spent a lot of time talking about my career. I talk very little about my career now. I was a broadcaster for 25 years. I was way better at it than I was baseball. I should still be doing it. I'm retired, but that was kind of a forced retirement. And I figured I'm 65 now. I figured I'd work until I was 67. My last year was 2020. Um, I can look back at every one of the controversial statements that I ever made and explain every one of them and make you understand what was actually said as opposed to what people said I said. I got fired from Fox for making a racially insensitive comment, which is to me is a bunch of BS. If you can find something racially motivated in what I said, then you're a racist. I think, it's like one of those kind of things. But it didn't matter. The head of Fox Sports fires you, you get fired. I was their next golden boy at the time. I would have had numerous World Series under my belt at this point in time. I was the number 2 to Tim McCarver. I would have been doing every World Series game that they've had over the last, 15 years. That hurts. Knowing that I busted my ass in that business. The answer to what came hard for me, I first started broadcasting games at Fox, but then I also anchored at Fox Sports News. I was probably the first ex-jock in history to anchor a 1-hour Sports Center type show on Fox. Getting the names were tough for me. And not saying the F word on the air was something. That's how I thought I'd get fired. And then the traffic in your ear while you're trying to do something, like, you have to go to break and your break is in, 10 seconds, but they start saying 10, 9, 8, while you're still talking about while you're trying to get out. And so that's a little bit of a problem to get used to. The rest of it, it's talking baseball.
Okay.
Sorry, that was
no,
a lot off my.
No, you're good, man. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up. Obviously, it's a staple within your broadcasting career, and you definitely are a legend within the game of baseball. I do want to ask you, years down the road that it happened, especially after Lou Piniella said that he found no malice in your phrasing, words, or your character at all. Is there anything that you want to say, or just when we bring that up?
I was, I technically I really got fired 2 years before then when there was an incident with Sean Green. And that was a weird one too. I made a joke about a Jewish holiday and it was out of ignorance. I'm not Jewish. I didn't really know. But the thing was he sat out Yom Kippur and it was a critical time. It was the last weekend of the season. They were a game ahead of the Giants. And I spent most of my day telling everybody how much I love Sean Green, how great a player he is, what a great guy he is, what a tremendous teammate he is. And then, I made a joke about him not playing based on his what I felt was his Jewish heritage rather than his Jewish religion, because he really wasn't a practicing member of the Jewish faith. He really wasn't. But the Jewish community always wanted him to sit out that holiday based on his name. And he finally did. And I was just trying to bring levity to a serious situation. And believe it or not, they got zero complaints, but my boss wanted me fired for saying it. And he's not even Jewish. So he just waited 2 years and then got me at the Lou Piniella thing. And, maybe I slurred the Spanish language a little bit because I don't really speak Spanish. And plus, I thought Lou was Italian. I thought Lou Piniella was Italian. I didn't know he was from Spain. And so Fox put out a bulletin saying that they fired me for making a racially insensitive comment towards Hispanics, of which got them in trouble because the Hispanics stood up and said, well, wait a minute. No. He's Spanish from Spain. We're not Spanish. So don't try to mix that up either. So they screwed up their own press release.
It's like a bowl
And again,
of
they
cancel
got
soup.
zero. When you're the number 2 at a network, I was the number 2 team. Me and Tom Brenneman and Buck and McCarver were the number 1. When you're the number 2 team on a national network like that, it takes an uproar to get you fired. They didn't get one call. They had to explain why they fired me. So that's why I don't apologize for it, because I don't really think I did anything wrong.
They you got canceled before it was cool. I'm all here for that, man. Like, I love just guys talking sports or whatever. The Tom Brenneman one, like, obviously that is infamous on his apology, and the Castellanos goes deep mid apology. I don't know. That is just so funny to me. I will remember that for the rest of my life. And it's like, otherwise, I don't know if I would remember the name, but I don't think that could be beat.
Well, Tom was my partner at Fox, and that was a tough one because the comment was certainly out of character for Tom. He is, you talk about an amazing broadcaster. He was so awesome to work with, so good, never made mistakes. And again, obviously that was a couple years after they got me, but I felt so bad for him that it happened because, this guy that was $1 million career that he had, and it was gone like that, and it's like so much in this country now, there's no such thing as second chances anymore, and it's always like, who fired him? Oh, they got him. They fired him. They fired him. Who? It's like, everyone's so afraid, and really, I guess I would say that I don't have a job right now. One, because I haven't tried too hard to get one. Retirement doesn't suck. But number 2, it's like, because I don't have an executive somewhere that has the balls to stand up and say, we're hiring this guy because he's really good at what he does. And who has any questions about his past? Because I'll answer 3 of them. And then after that, I'm done. We're moving forward. Did he get fired at Fox? Yeah, he said something that they didn't like. We don't care. We're done with that. Did the Red Sox let him go after 2020 when he said the Red Sox sucked every night? Yeah, they did. We're done with that. We're hiring him. We're ready to go. Anything else? Because we're done with the past. And we're going to watch him do great work for us now. I don't have one of those guys.
These commentators now, they're on Fox and whatnot. Obviously, they have so many people they have to report to, so they have to keep it straight edge. But I do like a little,
Yeah. I had the idea 25 years ago to do a game on Monday night. The Monday night schedule is probably 5 or 6 games usually, because that's your off day. And put it on some obscure network or something, or ask people to watch the game on whatever network it is, turn the sound down, and go to wherever we are. And we're 3 guys that can say whatever we want. Now, you'd never get sanctioned by Major League Baseball, so you'd have to do it. There's a way to do it now. There wasn't a way to do it 25 years ago. And us 3 say anything we want about the game that's being played. And if you're coming to us to listen, that's kind of the disclaimer. We can't really get in trouble because it's your choice to come and listen to us. But I'd be like, how are they bringing this guy into the game? He hasn't gotten anybody out in 3 weeks. Right. He's terrible. What are we doing? And it could be really fun and entertaining. Now, if you do that, you still got to be able to show up in the clubhouse and look that guy in the eye and say, yeah, I said you were terrible, but prove me wrong, man. You haven't looked too good. So
now Steve,
that day's coming.
I'm a I'm gonna hold you to that because you know we're working things out over here at Minus Seven Sports as a sports media startup. So
All
if
right, I'm your first analyst then.
I would
Hired.
absolutely love that. Cousin Craig, Mike, I know you guys wanted to ask a few things about golf, or
Steve, let me ask. I know, so I'm a former washed up baseball guy, and I know baseball and golf are somewhat synonymous. Are you a golf guy, or did you maybe take the tennis route, or
Oh, tennis, man. You spend most of your time walking over there to try to pick up the ball you missed.
pickleball? There you go.
Pickleball, I want to play more of. It's a cool game. Yeah, I love golf. I'm not good at it. I hit left-handed my whole life. I golf right-handed. Not sure what happened there. I'm a 15, so I love playing, but I probably maximum 4 times a month, 3 times a month is more. And you're not gonna get good playing less than once a week.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a
But I love
insane.
to be out. I love to swear at myself for 4 hours, and it's a good time.
You're a sucker for pain.
Yeah.
The obviously Ryder Cup week. Thoughts? Are you going to be glued to the TV? Do you care about the Ryder Cup? I mean, I know some people who, very few people who, golf's an individual game. We got the best player that second best player I've ever seen in my life, Scotty. What are your thoughts on the Ryder Cup? You got a team you're rooting for, a certain player you like? Are you a Bryson fan?
I am a Bryson fan. I don't know if I like the whole live thing. That kind of tore the sport apart a little bit. But again, it's like the steroid thing. Someone drops 100 million in front of you, and you're like Patrick Harrington at the end of his career, and they drop 100 million. How do you say no? I'm going. That's generational wealth right there that you're going to hand me. But kind of tore the game up a little bit. I do like the team aspect of the golf. I like when those guys are all pulling for each other, and it's country against country, and because I really think they do care about it and they get into it, and it's kind of a cool thing to see.
Yep. Are you you got a certain player on US? I mean, I don't have a favorite player in golf. I would say I lean towards Bryson, just because he's like blown up the YouTube space now. But you got a favorite player in the game now, or past?
Is Bradley coaching it?
Yes.
So he's not playing, right?
No, he should be, but he didn't pick himself. He didn't want that
Yeah.
kind of pressure on that.
Well, he didn't get picked last time too. They
Nope.
passed him over. He's a Boston guy. I kind of lean towards him because I think he looks like Ichabod Crane out there, and then just smokes the ball. He doesn't look like he should be a good golfer, but I've seen Full Swing in some of those shows.
Yeah.
Just seems like a good guy, a great family guy, and a good player. But yeah, Bryson's a guy that's just fun to watch because he's kind of changed the dynamic of the game. He looks like an Iron Mike pitching machine when he swings the club, but you can't hit it farther than he does.
He's amazing. And Mike's getting into golf. It's an addictive game. But like you said, if you want to be good, you got to grind it out. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. I mean, the Ryder Cup's great, and then every other year they got the President's Cup, which is
Right.
everyone not in Europe. And I think 2 years ago that was here in Charlotte, at Quail Hollow. So I went to a couple of days of that, which was fun.
Yeah, Medina next year.
Yep.
I might be at that one.
There you go.
Yeah, Steve, I have one other question just for baseball wise, real quick. You've been to hopefully you've been to most of the major league cities in your career. Who has the rowdiest fans, and what city has the best nightlife?
Wow. Let's see. Well, Chicago, I think is, especially back when I played, things have changed a little bit in Chicago. It's a little tougher to go to Chicago and feel as safe as you used to. I hope that changes quickly. Chicago was always a great town to not only play in, although when I played there, we were with the White Sox and we stunk it up pretty good. We had 9,000 loyal fans. They showed up every night, and they cheered for us because they knew we were trying hard, but they also knew that we didn't have the horses to win. So that was cool. Chicago was great. Um, Surprisingly, Detroit had some pretty rowdy fans. I got hit in the ass with a golf ball while I was playing center field. And if you remember old Detroit Tiger Stadium, center field was 440 feet away, and I played shallow center field. So whoever hit me with the golf ball, holy shit, he threw that a long way. So that was hard. New York, playing center field in New York, I learned new stuff about my mother that I never knew before. You know, the right field fans in New York, they'd be screaming at me from way over there. They had stupid songs that they would sing to you. Um, so yeah, I mean, New York and surprisingly Detroit was kind of a nasty place to go.
You mentioned your teammates with Dion. Do you have any thoughts of this whole Shador Sanders situation?
Um, what are you gonna do? I mean, everyone thought he was gonna go in the first 5 picks, and what did he go in the 5th round or later than that? Even um, I I still think that he has a chance to develop and be a pretty good player. Might not happen this year. That they gotta get him in the system and let him play and let him learn, and then. Obviously he's a tremendously gifted athlete. His father was ridiculous. I mean, his father, one of the greatest athletes I ever saw. I mean, Bo Jackson was even more ridiculous in it on a different, more brute level. People laugh at me when I say this, but Danny Ainge, I grew up with Danny Ainge, was one of the greatest all-around athletes I ever saw in my life. But a guy like Shador Sanders, he certainly has the pedigree. He certainly has the athletic ability. And now, maybe you step away from the hype a little bit and learn more and become a better player because of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
I
then
think hopefully Cleveland doesn't Cleveland, because Cleveland recently, they get a lot. I mean, they're always towards the front of the draft, and then they always ruin quarterbacks. So, and I do. The media has added an unlimited amount of pressure to him, because the media mentions the name, they want stories, and then it makes half of the country dislike the guy.
Right.
He seems like, I mean, I don't know him, seems like a good dude from the outside, but it's just the way that the media hammers it home now. But yeah, I agree with you. He's a freak athlete. Being a Steelers fan, they had ample chances to draft him. They went with Will Howard out of Ohio State, which he's serviceable. But once Aaron Rodgers is gone, I don't know where they go.
Yeah, I mean, and then Aaron Rodgers, held them over the fire until they signed him. But yeah, I mean, same thing with Dion too. I mean, his own persona kind of demonized himself to half the country. You either like that stuff or you don't. And I have a ton of friends that they're conservative. They don't like that stuff. Deion Sanders, as a teammate for me in Atlanta, he'd give you the shirt off his back. He was a great teammate, great guy. Hated the media at the time, and then became the media. Yeah. I give him the pass. I don't like guys that hate the media when they play and then become the media. Sorry. You don't get to have it both ways. But we have a bunch of guys that did it, don't we? I don't like that stuff.
So here at -7 Sports, Steve, we like to incorporate some sports entertainment technology in with, just the whole grand landscape of sports, including some sports betting and sports predictions. Is there anything that you have your eyes on as far as gambling wise? Sports?
I know it's the way of the world and stuff. It's so weird that Pete Rose is out of the game for gambling and not in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame really won't mean as much to me without him in it. And now I guess they've opened the door for him to get in it, but that was almost kind of a big, F you to Pete as far as I was concerned. They wait for him to die and then say, and now you see that sports and gambling are kind of in bed together. You see sports TV channels given the betting lines on things, which is so unheard of back when I played. It was the biggest no-no you could do. Don't gamble on sports. So the lines are being blurred. I'll be fine with it. It takes me a while because, as we talked about before, you kind of think of yourself as old school, as a purist. I do too, even though my nickname's Psycho and I was a crazy guy and everyone thinks I'm totally off the wall, but kind of a purist when you get right down to the way things work and the way how you're supposed to play the game and the way it's played. So gambling will take a little bit for me to kind of really grab a hold of it and say it's all okay. So I haven't really dabbled much. Like I said, my buddy likes to bet sports, and he'll call me and say, "What should I do on this one?" I'm like, "Whatever you think, do the opposite."
You fade yourself. That's a game I play often, and then somehow the original thought was correct, and then it's like, well, now I know why Las Vegas is so nice. So
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, a lot of these bets are like, okay, over under. It's sort of 50-50. Someone's going to win. You just keep making the wrong guess. I don't know. He bets a lot of money, and I say, guys that bet as much money as you bet, they study. They get up and they study for 2 hours before they make these bets. You call me and say, Houston's been under for the last 3 days. It's got to be an over. It's got to be. Like, yeah, no, it doesn't got to be an over. It could be. Who's pitching? I don't know. I'm like, oh, God, where are they playing?
All right, so Craig, Mike, you guys want to take us out since my camera's not working. Steve, you've been a class act. It's so great to meet you. It was a pleasure and honor to honestly speak with you here for a little over an hour. I'm not paying for the extra 11 minutes.
Why do you think I tried to go long?
This guy is a veteran. Now, Steve, thanks, man. Seriously, the conversation's been great. I very much appreciate your enthusiasm and sitting down with us. It was wonderful talking with you. Hopefully, in the future, maybe we'll circle back. If your mentality or if your mind wants to take you back into the booth somewhere, I'll be the first one to listen in. Otherwise, we'll be rooting for your 15 handicap to get down to single digits at some time. So
I'll go on the show anytime you guys want. We'll talk about the extra 90% of stuff we didn't get into.
there you go.